Hey everyone, welcome to West Coast Wednesdays. My name is Justin Anchetta from SF Garnish Music Production and Soul Graffiti Studios. And today I'll be talking to you guys about how to use Ableton Live 11, or you can also do this in 10 as well. There's a couple different changes in the features for 11, but the functionality of what I'm mostly going through today is going between arrangement and session view. There's a lot of people out there that are pros in arrangement view, right? You're seeing left to right. This is the regular DAW left to right view, right? Going across this way. And they don't know anything about session view, and also vice versa, right? There's a lot of people that use session view that never get over to the other side by pressing tab over to your arrangement view. So today what I'm going to do is kind of break down how you can use both sides of Ableton. The functionality of it for a live show in arrangement and session view and bouncing back and forth is pretty phenomenal. Even if you're doing something on the fly and you're making it up, you might want to go back and forth, take a sample from your session and bring it to arrangement, or vice versa. Okay. And this is also the flow that you're going to do in your studio when you're doing your production. Okay. So this is going to help on both sides, the live show and the studio. If you have any questions, you're welcome to contact us at sf@garnishmusicproduction.com. We'd be happy to get back to you soon. We also have our online and in-person classes year-round in our producer and academy program. So please check it out at sf.garnishmusicproduction.com. Thank you to the Garnish Network for hosting us worldwide at all 8 locations. And we're here every Wednesday for West Coast Wednesdays, right? So if you don't know what I'm doing on today, don't worry about it. There's a bunch of sessions previously recorded every Wednesday in 2021 that we've gone through a bunch of different features of Ableton every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it's in a playlist there, right? So check that out, the West Coast Wednesdays live at 11 to 12 playlist. And let's get into it today. So here we are in Ableton 11. And I have quite a bit already in here. If you want to know how I got to this point, please check out our playlist, as I said, on our YouTube. We're going live on our Twitch, our Facebook, and our YouTube right now. And we're going to get into some of the details of arrangement view to start off. Okay, so what I did here with this song is I purposely put in this order right here where it's just, it's a MIDI track. So I went Command-Shift-T, right? And it creates a MIDI track. And what I ended up doing is I double clicked on a location and I started drawing and then recoloring it, right? And then I started naming it. So when I zoom in, I'm going to go ahead and just delete this track because I'm just kind of showing you that how I got to this point. So I'm going to select it, press delete or backspace. Zooming in, I have all these notes for myself. I want to add a guitar solo, a nylon guitar solo here. The rhythm changes into another guitar melody space, vocals in. You can kind of start seeing the structure of your song. This song initially started out being really long, and then it kind of broke down to a much smaller length eventually. So because I could kind of see how long each section was, and I was able to kind of break it down that way. It's actually looking like it's still getting up here to 10 minutes. You can see in the marker right here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see this. You can always see an arrangement view, right? Your markers in minutes down here. If you zoom into everything just a little bit more, I'll just press the plus button. It starts even breaking it down to the 15 seconds, right? And then the 10 seconds and so on and so forth, even 5 seconds when you zoom in. So zooming back out again and back out again. We are going to just listen to this track a little bit. But this track has a lot of frozen tidbits so that we save on our CPU usage up here. What we also have is quite a bit of tracks, right? So we had to freeze a bunch of stuff to save on CPU. And I also had to group all, so I can just close that, and all of my arrangement view tracks are essentially right here. Okay, nice and easy. They're all going through my effects all. So this is sending. You can kind of see this drop down that it's sending to effects all. And then this is in mode. And this is sending to the master. Okay. The next thing I have here is B backing. Actually, I'm going to say A all right here because we're actually doing an A and a B deck here. And the A deck is my arrangement view, and my B deck is my session view, as you guys see here, with some of the backing tracks. If you want to see this little extra area right here, you just go ahead and click on this X down in the kind of middle bottom right, and it opens up this area where you can select A for the all and then B for the backing. And what that does is when I map my, I have a Akai MPK Mini over here. I'm mapping one of my knobs by pressing Command M, and I'm mapping it to this right here. Okay. So when I move my knob, it then makes that the functionality of going between deck A and deck B. As you can see, that slider is going back and forth right here. Let's go ahead and zoom into this so you guys can see this. So look at where my mouse is, and right here I'm using my Akai MPK Mini doing MIDI controlling right there, left and right, A and B deck. Okay, so that is going to be how we're going to change between tracks of our arrangement and session view in a live setting. Okay, this is just one idea, by the way. There's so many different ideas of workflow, but I just thought I'd get creative in this one way today, just to drop into how we can have a nice transition. So I took out all the stop buttons for my A deck right here. And the reason why is that if we had a stop button here, when I click on this master scene session here, right, going across, it would stop all the other tracks. And what I want to do is actually have a smooth transition and have it kind of play out across the way. Okay. The other thing that we might want to do is have it kind of fade to gray simultaneously. So what I want to do is go ahead and put a new fade to gray in my all track here. So I already have an effects fade to gray going on, but we can always add a new one because this is going to allow me to have just my own fade to gray happen with my A to B functionality. All right. So Will Marshall effects. All right. So our fade to gray is completely on right here. And also notice how this is something that I've actually customized myself, that as the fade to gray happens, this EQ8, right, the filter for the highs and lows drop in right here. And I made it to where it didn't go so high. The cue point made it kind of make this extra spot right here. And it really, it didn't sound good to me. It actually kind of would create feedback. So I dropped that cue point. I won't go into it today, but there's customizations of these things that you can always do to kind of make it your own. And now I'm going to go Command M. All right. So now notice how on my Command M, CC21 is both fade to gray and my crossfader center. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. And notice how fade to gray is coming on and the crossfader is going on. Okay, so this will allow the track to have that delay and frequency sweep as I'm fading out. And when you're looking at a DJ deck, this is often something that happens is you can kind of set it to where as you crossfade, a certain effect might take over and makes a nice, sweeter transition, whether it be delay or reverb, right? Fade to gray has a lot of that built into it. If you look across this area right here, right, it has this delay going on and the EQ sweep. Excuse me. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and play this transition, and then I'm going to kind of talk more about it. Okay. Like I said, if this is kind of too advanced for you or over your head, please check out the previous videos or ask questions, comment. Happy to answer your questions. And we do have a full curriculum that kind of will walk through this in a more in-depth, both beginner, intermediate, and advanced curriculum, all the way through our academy program. All right. So I'm going to go back into arrangement view. And notice how at the very front, I put my BPM, 150 BPM here. And on my track, my backing track is set, right? I put the name here, We Believe, and I have a bass and a drum backing already imported. And it's at 85 BPM. Now, 85 times 2, right? That's like 170. So it's a little bit faster than the 150. You can kind of do this cut time thing. Ideally, it would be a similar BPM. It might be like 5 to 10 dB lower or higher. So you can kind of ramp up or down into a different BPM for your set. But I just did some extreme here, right? Where I'm going to literally almost do cut time for the transition. Okay, so here we go. We're at 150 BPM. I'm going to make sure that this is also at 150 to start, right? Because I know that it'll be cut time otherwise. So I just changed that by clicking on the BPM up here and then typing 150 and it goes in. Okay, here we go. I'm going to play this.
Listen to the rules as they change, as they change. No reason but you. Listen to the rules as they change, as they change. No reason but you.
I have all of my mapping going on here. So I can have a beat repeat. So I'm actually able to DJ the arrangement view. Why don't I go ahead and just, as this is playing, I'm going to go to my effects so you guys can see what's happening. So, and notice I actually have some, this dot means that there's some automation. So I'm actually, I want to put this back on, right? Because I can either take over mode or re-enable automation. If I want to see this, show automation to see like how much intentionality has been there, right? There's some good intentionality. I'm seeing that movement here. Press A to get rid of all that on your keyboard. All right. So like I said, we're able to mix this track. As it's playing in arrangement view. Super helpful. All right, so a lot of this has already been mixed in arrangement view because of the automations that I've put on. Anything that's grayed out here, you can actually re-enable. Notice this frequency right here, re-enable automation. So this is where you kind of have this octopus hands of, if you don't have the ability to do all of it live with the knobs, you have some of it pre-programmed. And this is the ability of having a pre-planned production studio, putting your tracks together. Arrangement view is great for that. You can also do this in session view and have pre-programmed effects. But it's nice if you have a full song that's pretty much done and you have the effects pretty set a certain way. use arrangement view and then take over controls, right? So if I want to take over the controls of the fade to gray, I want to show you guys this. Notice how fade to gray is off right now. I can then take my Akai MK Mini and turn that on. Right? So this is one way that you can really have some fun and turn that on, or even really take out all the sound with that filter sweep, right? And then go into something live. Maybe you have your click track in your ear still, so you know where the BPM is. And then you can kind of come back in to boom, 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 boom. Re-enable automation. All right, you can take your metronome off. I have a push 2 to control that. So, or you can set that to any hotkey using MIDI. All right, we're almost to the end of the song here. So we're gonna jump over by pressing tab. All right. Jumping over, and notice how this is our ability to control our A to B. All right, and all of a sudden we're into the reggae vibe. Completely different sounding song, right? So you might want to kind of pick the right BPM, the right sound to move into. Sometimes during a set, you want to change up the scene, right? You want to change into the more spacious ambient song, into moving people. So notice how when I clicked on We Believe, it instantly went to 85 BPM and slowed down the other track almost by half the speed. And then I started doing my fade, right? Coming down here to my A-B deck, right? And I was on the A side, which is my all arrangement view. And I switched over to my session view tracks, my backing tracks on this side. Now, as the backing tracks are playing, right? This is where you can start going into the song. When the world is in your face and trouble's all around, right? I'm seeing some movement here. Now, this is interesting thing too, is that it depends on where you start your track on this side, right? So if we were toward the end of the track, then all of our movements should be, all of our automations should be off. So you really want to pay attention to where you are in your arrangement view, right? Because all your automations, when they're turned on, they are going to take place and affect all your tracks. If you don't want them to affect these live or the backing tracks, that maybe this automation should actually be just on the effects all area, right? So that's actually something we can do right now, because I just want to make sure that this won't affect my backing tracks. I'm going to take these two, and these already have the automations in them, and I'm going to throw them over to effects all. Okay, and as I throw them in, let's see if the automations moved with it. And they didn't. All right, I'll Control Z that, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that those automations move with the track. So what I can do here is copy these over, Command C, and go into this track. And all right, so now we have our two EQs at the very end. I'm wondering if this is always on here. And we're going to copy over our parameters so that our master track should really stay as clean as possible. I was just doing this initially just to kind of mess around, but at the end of the day, you want your master track just to have your mastering effects on it, not DJ effects. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, okay, and notice that it's showing up right there. And I also want to click on my effects all chain. And let's go ahead and show the automation, which there is no automation at the moment of that. Okay, auto filter frequency sweep. Dun, 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 dun. Effects all. Very interesting. It is grayed out. And the reason why is this button right up here. Very important. If it's ever grayed out, click it there and it should be there. So notice actually that it did copy over, but it just didn't actually register until we did this, the gray out function. Okay. That's interesting setup there. And it's kind of cool. As you go through this, it's showing you what changes, right, with your frequencies here. So now that that is in my all up here on this side, I should be able to delete the automations on my master track, and they should be in the appropriate area up here. So let's go ahead and make sure that it's in my effects. So two frequencies, junk, there it is. So see how it matches junk and junk. So I want to make sure that this one now is off my master. And even just to clean it up more, I can just take that entirely off. This EQ is not doing anything, so I'll take that off as well. All right. And it looks like I do have, you know, this here for my live set. I want to like affect all tracks. So this is where I would be able to affect those. Right. Okay. So let's go back in here and see what's going on. Fade to gray, show automation, and enable automation. Okay. Let's make sure that everything is going to play now. All right. So I did so many different movements here that I'm not getting any sound. So we have to, this is a pretty complex setup here. I'm going to have to make sure we have everything we want. What did we affect here? We went into our effects channel. Let's make sure that our effects channel is properly set up. All right. So our filters are working and on. Fade to gray is working and on. Okay. Cool. Let's go back to our 150 BPM. All right. We're in troubleshooting mode here, y'all. So we just did a pretty big surgery. We went in and changed our effects from our master chain, which we didn't really need it in, and we brought it over to our effects all. So how we can do this is looking at our volume and gains. We can kind of see where things are happening or where things are not. So rhythm all is playing. Wurlitzer is playing. And it's not going to the effects all. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, that's why. So we have our AB on. So really important thing here is that what you set up, right, really can take you down a rabbit hole and completely you have to like restart if you can't figure it out. What we just did here is that if you're on your A deck and you have this fade to gray on, right, nothing's going to play in arrangement view, even if you click that little thing up here that brings arrangement view back into audibility. So let's try this again. Right. So here it is, fading out. Very cool fade. All right. So what we're getting in here is a custom arrangement, right, of a track. And what you can also do is easily add in arrangement view extra tracks and put your AB right in the center, right? Notice where my mouse is right down here. I'm bringing this right to the center, and that means that your B and your A decks will both play simultaneously, and that way you can start mixing in beats, right? So, and another thing that I love to do is just having some presets, right, that I like. So MIDI clips at certain BPMs. So there's a couple things in here. And what you could do is go ahead and just add in another MIDI track here. And this is your backing or it could be a samples. I want to change the name of this, but I'm going to go ahead and put that in right here. So as I'm playing this track, one thing I want to actually disengage at this moment is this effect right here. Yeah, because I want a clean fade. So with my AB, I'm actually mixing how much of that beat comes in, right? So you can also mix it by going to your mixer, right, and dropping the volume. Then it can kind of come more to the center. This is also a way you can completely fade into a new song, right? I'm just on the B track now. So a lot of functionality. I would say Ableton, it takes pretty much like a DJ setup and allows you to really, it's like programming. It might not look as cool as the fancy lights on the DJ setup, but the functionality of it, once you learn both, it is pretty phenomenal. Now, another thing that can happen is that as you're playing this track, let's go ahead and go back to our here. So here's our track playing. We're moving over. Now we're in the center. And if I go ahead and click on this scene right here in session view, it's going to, there's stop buttons on the all. Okay, so that should stop all those tracks. And it takes over at that point. So this is another functional way of having multiple ways of starting and stopping tracks, moving through different mixes, right? Using your A and B deck. All right. I'm not following any questions live, y'all. So if you guys are commenting at all, I'm not going to check it out until afterward. But if you want more of an in-depth, any questions, we would be happy to talk to you. We have a free 30-minute consultation. You can contact us at sf@garnishmusicproduction.com or Kyle@garnishmusicproduction.com. Thanks, Kyle, for taking on that 30-minute consultation. For our studio, Soul Graffiti Studios and SF Garnish in North Oakland for our Bay Area SF Garnish Music Production location. And this is West Coast Wednesdays, and I'm getting into Ableton arrangement and session view, right? So every time that you're in arrangement view and this little orange light is on right here, I'm going to zoom in because this is pretty important, right? This being on, your arrangement will not play. There's so many people who are like, oh my God, like I had this cool thing I made and it just won't work. And all we do is like, we just say, click that button and it turns on arrangement view again. The reason why that's there is that it's a visual capability of being able to functionally get to show that you're only listening to session view instead of arrangement, right? Because we just played this track, all the other tracks stopped because of our stop buttons here. And like I said before, I purposely took the stop buttons off for this transition on top, right? Another way to do it is to not take the stop buttons off, but by playing the master backing track play button and not using the master play button, right? The master play button is going to do the stop or start of anything within there. Grouping tracks is huge in Ableton, right? It's the difference of a lifetime. I can't believe it took till, I think it was Ableton 8 for them to do this. But just the ability to group tracks, to have specific effects sending to a group, right? Instead of having to create more sends and returns. All right, so we're back in here again. And I noticed that I brought in 106 BPM, but 150 BPM is actually our tempo. So what we'd want to do is kind of get in here and listen to some of our 150 BPM sounds. Has a lot of melody in there. That's cool. All right. So some of the time I actually want to do multiple of these simultaneously playing. So I just create a new MIDI, drop it over, and I can duplicate this down, Command D. And let's have some fun with this track again. I have a second screen up here showing my arrangement view, and I can also show you guys just by switching like this. But I love having a second screen so I can see both session and arrangement view, just because I switch back and forth so often now. And over time, it wasn't always that way. Originally, I only used arrangement view because, you know, I have like the Pro Tools background. And then once I learned session view and able to, you know, looping in there, I started only using session view. Isaac Kotek actually was the one that kind of brought it around, being like how simple it is to switch between session and arrangement view and even the copying and pasting of tracks from one to the other, right? To manipulate. So you can do that. You can copy and paste just by Command C, Command V, back and forth. Try it out, get creative, put some crazy amp effects on your instruments and change up the sounds. Now notice how right here I can play this full backing track. I can also just minimize this. Right. So now it's fading over to the other track here. And you guys want to then affect, right, what's going on here. Let's go ahead and just listen in. So this groove right here should be on MIDI. Let's go ahead and change this up. Let's go ahead and put just an audio track. I think that will help. Or actually, this might need an instrument. All right. Here we go. All right. So it's really just taking that sound. So the Borealis kit groove, Borella kit. Let's find out if we have Borella. That's actually another question. Borella kit groove and drums. There's the Borella kit. Let's put it over here. Cool, I like that. Now this is where bringing the BPM down live could be kind of cool. Try and feel out where that tempo really sits in. Okay, so now we're going back into our MIDI clips. If it only shows up just a little bit here, this often happens where you just forget that you have this search menu going on. You're like, what happened on my MIDI? Just click that X button right here and it will take that away. All of your MIDI clip and templates will come back again. Right? So we're around 130 BPM now. Okay, so let's go ahead and go from there. Cool. New little groove right here. Let's try this out. You can actually start putting on your effects to these. So this is something that you can do live, right? Is just get some different tracks going on. Something that you really want to make sure is that if your headphone, your cue out right here should be set to something different, like 3, 4, some other channels than your 1, 2 master out, so that in your headphone, right, you can listen to what's being played over here and your audience isn't. When you kind of hear that good sound, then you can bring it into your track and, you know, fade it in or whatever you want to do. Really important too that you create, you get an audio interface that has the capacity to have at least 2 separate outs, right? Or actually 4 outs necessarily, because you want your stereo headphone and you want your stereo send for your master. Okay, so try and get an audio interface that has at least 4 outs. I personally have the X32 and it's set up right 16 outs or even more with the extensions. X32 rack is a Behringer product. Highly recommend it. All right, we got 20 more minutes here to kind of mess around with going back and forth from A to B deck. Now that we have this backing B deck, why don't we go back to the A deck and put something new in? I'm going to go Command T. And let's change this to a all arrangement. Okay, so anything in arrangement is going to be on this A all. However, we want to also have another A deck, and this is going to be backing, right? Or a backing DJ. We'll think about the name later. I'll do a few of these, right? Audio and also MIDI. And I just won't name them currently because as you drop things in, it will start naming it for you if you don't name it ahead of time. All right, so go ahead, Command G after you select these. I'm selecting the first one, pressing Shift, selecting the last one, and then Command G. It groups those tracks into this group 45, it's called. And it's actually, it names it 45 because we have 45 tracks later, right? Because this all is pretty big. I'm going to go Command R after clicking on that group name. And this is going to be A, capital. Everything's capitalized in group tracks. There's just helps know that it's a group. And this is going to be backing. And I notice I didn't capitalize this over here. Arrangement. So let's do that. Capital. It's kind of a long name, but ARA sounds good. Or if I brought this out, right, gets that full name in there. And really, at the end of the day, you really want to have it to where this is pretty cleaned up, right? I have my vocal live here. I'm not going to go into that today, but this is kind of getting cleaned up. I have my order here that doesn't necessarily have too much on this side, but I could color code the order as well on this side and even name it, right? So We Believe, and let's go ahead and call that We Believe. And the reason why I like doing this is that I have it on both sides of my screen, right? The name over here and the name over here. If I'm on my push 2 and I'm really far out in a different location, I have the order right up here, right in front of me with the color coding going on. So this next track right here would be rename B backing 01. Rename B backing 02. And then rename B to A backing 01. Okay, when I say B to A, okay, that means that I can set up this session to purposely transition to the A scene at this time. And let's go ahead and color code that differently each time, right? So we know what we're doing here. Let's make sure these colors kind of semi look good together. All right. So right away, if you saw my push 2, it has the exact same color coding, and it really makes it visually easy and nice to see the same colors on your screen or your push in that order. One thing that I kind of wish is that probably in the future, the push will have whatever you name will actually show up on each little pad with that name on it. It would take a lot more programming on their part, LED screens on every single pad. But that would really have a lot of functionality, right? Is to actually name each instrument, each sample, and it pop up on your instrument. So you can really not have to look at the screen at all. That's also one cool thing about the push 2 is that it's, I think, the most functional way of getting away from your screen and more into a hardware device or having the feel of a hardware device. even though you're still controlling the computer. All right, 15 more minutes. I'm going to get into some transitions here. Let's go ahead and... All right, so I click on that second scene. Right, big beat comes in. I'll say big beat in. And let's say, I also want this name to be similarly titled so I know which track I'm playing on. Because let's say I'm on my A deck, right? I can always know I need to go to my B deck for that. So I'll put the B in front of there. Let's go to the next one. All right, so now we have our A backing. It's completely empty at the moment, and we want to kind of get some sounds that match. And so currently, like I said, I want to put my cue out to the same 1 2 1 2 because I want you guys to hear just the same thing as me. I don't want to create a second mix for you guys to hear this. So we'll listen to the cue out and the master on the same tracks. But like I said, if you're doing a live show, you want your cue out, your metronome in your headset and not out in the mains. So let's go ahead and play this. And we're going to get into some sounds. Or let's say samples, grooves. All right. Here's something from the Southern Sound kits. Wow. I actually like that, just adding in right there. So what I can do, I don't think that's for my A deck sound, but I can add that into this exact kit. It's as easy as coming into this kit over here, finding out where an empty space is, right? I'm just kind of curious what these sounds are. And I'll probably put it by the kicks, right? So kicks over here. I'll put it right down here, right? All right, that 808 tone was kind of cool. So what I want to do is go into this MIDI track and play that 808 tone. I'm going to go ahead and get into record mode, get into note mode, and I have that right here. And right away, when I play this, the push 2 is kind of amazing because you can kind of know where that is. So I'm playing that just on that 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. This is also coming in soft, right? Volume at -12. Let's bring that back up. Zero that out. And transpose at 4. Let's bring that to 0. Bring it back a little bit. All right. A little 808 on the downbeat like that is going to do a huge thing. And let's say we just want that a little bit later in the beat. What we can do is Command I, and that is inserting a new track. And then we're going to duplicate this down. And let's say we want to take that out on the first one Okay, so I just pressed it out on my push 2, but I want to make sure that you guys actually visually see what's happening, right? A note is being created. Notice right here. So I'm pushing the push 2 and that note is being created on and off. You can also just double click and create that note yourself, right? Or take it away, double click and it goes away, right? Okay. Kind of organizing this a little bit. We're having some extra tracks coming in. You kind of also can name these like chill backbeat, you know, something that kind of like chills it out, because let's go back to the other beat. Right? A lot more energy. Right? And then going down the next one, adding in that big hit. Just so I can talk over this, I have this down quite a bit. The master volume is almost -12. This is also down. That's just how I'm doing it today, so I can talk over this. But if I was mixing this in some nice speakers, hopefully a subwoofer, right? If I'm working with the 808, that I would have this up closer to nominal, right? 0. Let's go ahead and get into, I actually don't think that we have time to get into the specific sounds here. But maybe there is an instrument drum kit. Here we go. Let's go to the drum kits that are already created.
Yo, Pierre, you want to come out here?
All right. These are not drum kits. It just has some sounds for drum kits. All right. So what we can do is you can actually create your own drum kit out of these sounds. Let's just go ahead and do that really quick here. In a MIDI track, I want to go to a drum rack. Let's go to a drum rack empty. Drop that into it. It will instantly name it drum rack. And now let's go back to our sounds here. Where were we? All right.
Yo, Pierre, you want to come out here? Yo, Pierre.
Not quite organized very well, but okay, so a nice clap. And what you want to do is click on drum rack and see how empty it is right here. All we got to do is fill it up. I'm going to go right to the center because that's where I like having that mostly. I know where my claps are often, right next to my kick. Clap and snare in the same location. Let's find another kick. Okay, smaller clap. We want to put a little reverb on that clap eventually. Kind of like a big bass. I'll put that up there. And we can also color code this on our instrument too, which is kind of nice. On the push 2, you can change the colors of each one.
Yo, Pierre.
We have quite a bit of duplicates in here. Not sure how that happened. All right. These 3 right here are great. Can I put all 3 in at once? Let's find out. Okay. So these are all pitching up. I want to make sure that these are all pitched to the same, zeroed out. Okay. Just a few more here. Either this is a glitch or they do this to make sure that you know that you're manipulating the sound from something new. So, am I in record mode? There we go. Oh, that's the hi-hat. So that big hit went away. All right, we're literally creating our own sound here. Repeat mode. I don't like that hi-hat sound. Let's go ahead and get a new hi-hat. There we go. I'll just put it right next to it. So we're essentially bringing in our own drums here to be able to play over the top. I always like putting the hi-hat way back in the mix, and I also like putting a reverb on it right away. Reverb, which one do I want? A reverb rack, that's cool. Custom racks. Let's see how this is. I'm guessing there's an EQ in it. Reverb rack, yeah, cool. Dry wet, super. And let's go ahead and quantize, swing this amount. I'm going to swing amount 14. All right, so we're able to play over that. Let's go ahead and just play with this beat a little bit. Chill beat. All right, we went right into record mode there. I just want to have just a quick sample of that. So. Right over the top. A little bit busy. I'm going to go ahead and just take some of these hits out. Bringing the volume out a little bit. Also, it's still in record mode, so I don't want to have that drop, so I'm going to delete that automation. Keep it right there. Now notice that my fade did not work because, out of that mode, this isn't on the A deck yet. So this all has to be on our A deck. Right, all of our backing. And actually, you can just take this all off and just make sure that the main backing, because it's all being routed to our group here, you can just put that on the A deck. Yeah, let's see how that sounds. Right, A deck and B deck. Some of it's a little busy at the end. All right. There, it's matching a little better. And something that I would just really probably just I'd like to bring this up in just a little bit is just having our drum bus on our drum rack here as a final touch. We're pretty much out of time here, but I'm just going to go ahead and save these and show you guys how to save it, because I really encourage you to kind of get that workflow of moving forward, progress on your track and your work and your production, and saving your racks and saving your work that you do, because you want to come back and like not have to recreate this drum rack because you've already done the work. Being really productive with your time. So now let's go ahead and listen in. Drum rack, here it goes, and sliding over. There's a drum bus. See how that's without it? Pretty amazingly different right there, right? And then with the customizations of the drum rack, drum bus, more of that boom in that 50 hertz zone. One thing I want to kind of do is get that hi-hat to kind of dance around a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my device and open up, sliding over to, go ahead and have you guys watch this for a sec. So I'm using my push 2 to move through these locations. Hi-hat, there it is, okay? Now transpose. All right. So what I just did is I transposed that hi-hat to be kind of dancing around on top. If you want to see that automation, right? right here, show automation, and there it is. All right. Go ahead and simplify envelope, kind of clean that up a little bit. Something else I want to do is kind of get some more stutters in there. All right, so I'm using repeat mode on my push to get those stutters in there. It's kind of busy, but what I probably want to do is double the loop and then simplify some of those too, right? All right, go into my A to B deck, right? Fully go across. Noticing that that B deck is kind of low in comparison, right? Bring that volume up to match. All right, you guys. Thanks for sticking with me here through this hour of West Coast Wednesdays. My name is Justin from SF Garnish Music Production, and I'm here every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to be going through a lot of different things over the next Wednesdays of 2021. Thanks for being with us. West Coast Wednesdays is sponsored by Garnish Network and SF Garnish Music Production Soul Graffiti Studios. We're located in North Oakland, San Pablo, and 64th. We have classes in person and online, and we'd love to show you guys more of what we're doing in Ableton, and Logic, Pro Tools, mixing and mastering, sound design, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mess around with this and go out like this. Have a great day. I got to put some effect on this good guy over here.